Welcome back, everybody. It is the first Wednesday in February, which for our next guest, that used to be a big deal, Tim Polasek, right? It's no longer the case, huh?
No, things have changed. We used to play a basketball game,
Yeah, that's
celebrate, or went over to O'Leary's in Moorhead for quite a few times and had a pretty big celebration.
Yeah.
We had a whole production, and actually, it's just not that it's sad, but for us, with the little transition that we had, we're going to be unlike what you'll see out of USD. SDSU in North Dakota, quite frankly.
Yeah.
They'll have some release. We got everything settled for the most part in December.
And I know you were on the phone when we were in Frisco talking with guys that were hopeful to get in here. How was that balancing act? Granted, I know the hay's in the barn to get ready for the football game, but you're worried about the 25 roster when you were doing that.
Yeah, I think we're improved. We're improved with just that. It's kind of constant, right? You're on the gas. I mean, we haven't come up for air yet to really relax and reflect on the season. We've been recruiting. So you just kind of get used to, it's an everyday thing, and you just keep knocking down tasks. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned over the course of the year is, okay, can't be in the offensive room all the time. Can't be in the defensive room because these tasks are going to come up on my desk that need to be knocked down, and we need to communicate at a high level. But quite frankly, it was pretty smooth for us. We missed out on two guys in that short window with the amount of travel we had and a lack of being able to go out and visit them probably costed us. But I'm comfortable and really happy with where the team's at right now.
Let's start first with addition to the staff. I talked with Sam O'Jury this a couple of years ago, and he told me, I didn't know this story, that when he wanted to get into the coaching game in Wisconsin, Stevens Point was open, and he called you. Can you give us the back end of that story?
There's actually two stories I think about a lot. Number one, the Stevens Point thing. Just helping Sam to get started. I knew that the kids would respect him for what he did. He would have some power or a place there just based on being a North Dakota State player. So I thought it was a good starting point. Get up and get coaching, make some mistakes, learn the business. Well, I think shortly thereafter, a year or two later, he's interviewing with Grand Valley State for a pretty big-time job, and he fell short. The coach there gave me a lot of feedback on how he did. And it was important to me to get Sam back to Iowa, down to Iowa's football camp. And we spent about a 24-hour period saying, Sam, the future's bright for you, but you've got to start refining your skills, being able to get on the board, present. And I'm so pleased with his natural progression. He kept in touch with all the guys that I put him in touch with at Iowa. Derek Foster, who now is the Saints running back coach, Kelvin Bell, Kelton Copeland. And so he found some real mentorship. And then he found a hell of a leader in Brock Sprague to help him out, and that recommendation was high. So to add another Bison that's a qualified football coach, I couldn't be more happy about the direction this is headed.
I think, and we're watching highlights of him here from his playing days, for a generation, I can say that now, a generation that may not remember or see him play. You coached him. He was a dynamite running back.
Recruited and coached him. We grew together. Sam was, a little bit awkward just with his movements and his length and his size. Made tough yards, could make people miss. Yeah. I mean, he's at the point of attack on a lot of big runs. Georgia Southern power comes out the backside A-gap. The Kansas State off the goal line. This power bounce play here that we ran. Sam was a really good player, and he played professionally. And I think I think our group, Jake Landry did a great job last year.
Yep.
I think that group, it's time that we put a running back in there, that has come up with high standards and some coaching along the way, but that can really, really come to them with the right perspective, a perspective that they all share, not only coming to Fargo probably, but also playing the position in the schemes that we're running.
To have three former Bison on your staff now, I know that was important. We talked when you got the job. I mean, but three off guys that you all either recruited or coached. I mean, is that even beyond what you were hoping for?
No, I think it's honestly our plan. I don't care if Randy would have coached 2 more years or, whatever decision he made. I'm so appreciative at the time with him. But everything that I put in front of the president, as far as my short list, it's coming to fruition here. The plan's being executed. No, I like that number of guys, and quite frankly, that'll be where I always start. The more people we can bring back here that understand our culture and understand Coach Polasek. If you look at the additions of Christian Dudzik, LJ, Grant Olson, Coach Gazer's been here. those guys all understand me from being a young, energetic coach, and I haven't lost that yet. And that passion and that energy being on the grass is what we're trying to continue to implement into our program. And so we'll continue to work hard to consider Bison, former Bison, and I think Sam, LJ, and Grant being from that era that I grew so much is really important. That 2010 range to 15 is an era that I really appreciate.
When Randy said to you he's ready to be done, tell me what that conversation was like.
It's just like I said, it was kind of like bittersweet, mixed emotions. I had a lot of emotion come over me. Just, ball guys are ball guys. And then there's some college coaches now that have fun being part of the business, like the games. Randy's a competitive teacher. He's very passionate and prideful about the state of North Dakota. And so all those kind of emotions kind of came over me at once. So we shared a moment. But then it was also like, Randy, just get on with it. Is it going to be golf, your grandkids? Sherry deserves more. Live the backside, third of your life. Yeah. And so very, very happy for him. And then, like I said in the press conference, me personally, I've been through this 4 times now. And a couple of those guys are legendary status for me. But, it's one of those deals. You get to the backside of 40 years, and you got to, man, this guy's seen a lot.
Yeah.
And so we'll have to be very conscious of his wisdom leaving the program and then his relationships across the state.
He's pretty humble about his NFL career. How much did you know about that when you first met him?
Well, when I first met him, I knew he got a shot.
Yeah.
I remember me and Tyler Roll pulling up some stuff. Yeah. Like, was he good or how did this go? And got a chance. Mortensen, when Carson's pro day, we shared a moment talking about Randy. And then I was like, okay, this guy, just to be in the NFL is one thing, and to play that position is another. And so he was talking about the creamsicle jerseys.
Yeah, right here, man. Yeah, I got the helmet.
I know
right
it,
there.
and I love it. And I tried like heck to get one from Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah.
And Tristan's like, I'll never give up a dreamsicle jersey unless we wear it again. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. And Randy shared some good stories the other day, and just really fun and really excited for Randy's future. But we're going to have to make sure we have a plan and that we attack what Randy was.
To have Jake, another North Dakotan, be in that role, was that critical? And is that Jake's new recruit? Well, I know he does a lot of the Upper Midwest. Will Jake take over North Dakota?
Well, we've had some options. It's critical. I think I want the state to know. I'm going to be out in January, 6 to 8 days in the state. But when it comes to April and May recruiting, all the bets are off. I got to go.
Everywhere.
I got to go. I got to go. So we had probably 2 discussions of almost an hour to hour and a half each about where people are going to go, how we were going to realign this. Jake is going to take over North Dakota and northern South Dakota. Coach Gazer will replace Randy in northern Minnesota, and he'll also retain western Wisconsin. And then Dan Larson will do eastern Wisconsin for the most part only. Sam O'Jury down in Chicago. Yep. And then LJ will slide back into Sioux Falls and Nebraska.
Okay.
So there's some moving parts. One guy leaves, and it affects a lot of people.
So let's talk about some of the guys you added today. You got a couple North Dakotans. Ben Shep, I want to talk about, is a guy that all he's done is win. 2-time state champion quarterback from Velva. Late guy that was kind of out there, was waiting. Tell me about how this, because he said you came out and worked him out, he told me last week.
Yeah, well, we can't technically. The kids always say that. Yeah. We worked them out.
Work out, yeah.
Stood and watched Clint Gilstead and the head football coach up there do a pretty good job of putting them through some things. But I kept getting calls from the Velva area. The Velva area in a short time here has become important to me. There's a lot of passionate fans. So we gave him and Bodine a real hard second look. Now, the difficult part with in-state recruiting, regional recruiting right now is just, roster management, the matrix, things are changing. So Ben was on our radar, but it was like, okay, we've got 5 quarterbacks on the roster. Right. Where does this fit? I said, I'm going up there myself to see him. And I thought he's a really fluid athlete. He's a gamer. He's a gamesman. He's a competitor. He has some specific things that he'll have to improve on in order to compete at a real high level fast. But between Clint Gilstead and the high school coach and Randy feeling pretty strongly about him, I just kind of said it's time. This is one of those kids that you continue to get calls on that you got to go up and check. And then honestly, I felt the same way about Bodine. We just didn't have the flexibility with that.
Another Class B kid is Drake Schlosser from Stanley, who went to the went to the Blue Gray All American game and had a pick. Was an MVP of that. He's an all-state guy. He played quarterback, wider. He played all over the field. Where do you see him fitting in for your roster?
One of the first guys that I met when I first got here, when I went on the road. And then receiver, okay, we got to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really liked in the middle of the year is that he was playing Wildcat quarterback. The ball was in his hands a lot. And so he'll fit in for us at receiver to start. Does he have some safety potential? Maybe, but we want to give him a real good shot at receiver, see if he's got the natural ability to play there. And then I just liked how much he wanted to be here. He came back. He had some other options, right? Both him and, Shep did. And I think it means a lot to him to be a Bison. And so as time goes on here, recruiting in North Dakota has changed a lot. We are doing everything in our power to maintain as many guys that can help us win national titles, but there are people coming into the state now.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden that list, we have to just continue to work it. Maybe it takes a little bit longer than it used to.
And I know you can't be specific on 26 and 27 guys, but you've already put your seeds out there, but knowing full well that there's Power 4 schools that are interested, that's totally different than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and we kind of waited on purpose. On everybody that we kind of dealt on, we could have went earlier. But I kind of think it's time for people to do their own recruiting. So I wanted to wait and follow through on what we said with those 26s, but there's still 5 to 15 that I'm really eager to see work out in the spring or compete in the spring. And there's some guys locally here that we're going to look at, and we're going to do a good job with it. Jake Landry's going to do a really good job with it. He's got as much pride as anybody about the state of North Dakota.
Punter is a spot. You have I wouldn't say an opening, but you have an opening for next year. You got a guy, high school guy, out of the state of Iowa, and Sam Knoll, he went to the Coles kicking camp, which I know is a huge deal. This guy has a boom of a leg. What kind of? I visited with him briefly. He knows full well what the challenge may be of moving up from high school, but what do you see out of this guy that really attracted you to him?
Well, the biggest
and
thing,
he was a quarterback too.
You like him, right? You like him. You like the film. Joe and Pat Lilly were working through the list. Okay, the list gets to me. You most certainly like what he put on film, but the fact that he was rated as high as he was with Coles and our relationship with Coles over the years is impactful. Myself and Jamie actually, I worked at his high school that he went to for that same coach. But then when I getting a chance to get to meet this guy, you're talking about a 6'1" guy that's 200 pounds, that's an athlete. So there's some room for growth. That's been important. The more athletic those guys are, the better. And then I don't know that we necessarily have a spot open because Aaron Bickerton was really coming on. And he had his best stretch of 3 or 4 weeks lately here.
Okay.
And so we really like where he's at, his progression. So I think it's a situation where there'll be some competition, but Aaron right now has
the leader of the clubhouse on that. Okay. You also signed 5 transfers here. I know they're all targeted positions or players that you had, but was there a method to the madness, so to speak, of what? Because I know you got everybody probably say, hey, I'd love to come play for NDSU. Yeah. But on the back end, what are you looking at? Say, okay, we have certain positions and players that we want out of the transfer portal.
Yeah, we're gonna always be aggressive in plugging and filling holes. Okay, well, in our case this year, our holes were created basically by injury or guys wanting to move on in their careers. It wasn't because they left in the portal.
Right.
And so that got a little bit complicated. I think we're always going to look to add a skill piece that's hard to recruit to North Dakota. We hope that Jalen Peoples can come in here and he can learn our culture. He can learn how we practice and play and how we earn stuff and all those things, but he's got a lot of upside. I'm really excited to see some of these guys here in the winter. We start running and we'll be with them in the middle of February. Yeah. But then, Barika's brother, Barry, just, kind of kept showing interest. I liked his college film down there. Learned a little bit about him through some people in the community, and why not? One of the things that we have to do with our walk-on program is continue to move guys along after 2 or 3 years if they can't make that next jump. And so I was really pleased about that. The young man from Albany has played a lot of football.
I don't know if he's young. He's in his 7th year of college football.
Yeah, and he's working on some things, and he's going to practice with us and work out and all that. And we got to see how some things shake out for him as far as eligibility goes. But we're happy to do that. And then you look at who am I missing? Jalen Archibald is really
another Frisco kid. Who went back there as a corner defensive back. Yep.
He had a strong connection to Donovan Woolen.
Yeah.
They played on the same 7-on-7 team. His dad, I believe, spent some time in Minnesota, and so they weren't afraid of the upper Midwest and that kind of stuff. And he just didn't enjoy himself at the prep school he was at. And so we're excited about him as well.
To have a couple of corners you brought in, Mason Wilson's a guy who played in the NSIC, another defensive lineman from Minnesota Duluth. That's a guy that, is that a plug-and-play kind of player that he's already played a couple years of college football?
Well, I think the cool thing is, with the recruiting that we've been doing, I've still been able to get to 8 or 9 lifting sessions. So I've been able to see Mason's session a couple times.
Yeah.
He looks the part. He looks like a mid-major D tackle. But I do think Mason has to understand, and that group has to understand, we're going to try to figure out who are these 4 and 5 guys that we're going to rotate in there. We know what we've got with a couple of these guys for sure, right? 3.
Yeah.
I mean, Dutenheffer's a hell of a player.
Yep.
Heisman's put some real change in his pocket as far as trust and consistent improvement and playmaking ability. And then you got Keenan Wilson, who I just think would have played a ton for us last year, got minimal reps. I think he's a guy. And then so, where does Logan Larson? What does he do? What does Jack Palmer do? What does Vanderpool do? And then Mason Miller, being able to interject him and to say, okay, here's the ball, go get it.
We only got 2 minutes left here before we go. You were down in Mobile. What was that experience? Gray had an unbelievable week. So he might be now the end of the first round, I'm hearing.
Yeah.
You got to see it up close. What was that experience?
He was unbelievable,
like?
And I just was so excited for him to be named player of the week, practice player of the week. And I think most of our guys that have gone down there have gotten that award. We're going to sell that more.
4 years in a row, man.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
But seeing Gray, the day I was down there in the game, I don't believe he missed a snap. As far as snapping the ball at center, he did a really good job. Scott Fuchs was really impressed. But the encouraging part was he still has a great sense of urgency. He's still competing and trying to improve. He was jumping in there rep after rep. And I really enjoyed getting to spend some time with his family that evening. And some of our Dan Larson, deserves that moment. But the overarching thing that I come back to is the 30, 40 people I talk to, we're respected at a very high level in how we do things and how our kids are motivated to improve and to be the best they can be. The Bison have made quite an impression on this NFL personnel.
And they're known now. I mean, it's not like – that's why I think Cam Miller has got a chance now to see where his stock has gone, that he very well could get picked as well.
Yeah, all these guys are right, the former players. Again, thank you, right? Because now they're cultivating the benefit of the doubt. If Gray was labeled a second rounder or something, well, that benefit of the doubt might get you to be the first center off the board.
Yeah.
Okay, that benefit of the doubt, because guys have done and had long careers, and we've got many now. It's a hell of a recruiting selling point, especially with those big guys. But I was talking to a couple of our skill guys, like, man, the skill's good down there. But fellas, keep working, right? You can get down there and you can do it for yourself as well.
Last thing before I let you go, spring ball is not that far away. Is there any downtime for the head football coach now, or no? Not because you've got recruiting is still technically, because you're starting already with 26 guys.
The next 2 days, I have to, call 15 to 20 guys. But we're going to take Thursday and Friday off, Monday morning off because of the Super Bowl on Sunday. To some degree, coaches will pop in and out of the office like they always do. There's just, what, guys, we're really excited about the championship that we just won.
Yeah.
But in our world, it's just time to get back on the horse and start riding and go try to do it again. And so we're excited about that.
I really appreciate you coming by. Thanks for giving us the intel on this, and be well. We'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
Tim Polasek joining us here in studio. We'll break. We come back. We'll wrap things up on a signing day spectacular. Back after this.